Welcome to another episode of the NeoLiberal podcast. The Caribbean and post-independent countries, black celebrities and peoples should not allow the privilege to use travel advisories and ad deals, such as sneaker deals that NBA players have with Nike, to take away their freedoms and independence. That is why our wealth has to be organic and not hinge on the external or those who continue to use such tools to weaponize themselves against any competition from the historically poor. I'm Renaldo, McKenzie, and welcome to another episode of the NeoLiberal podcast. The title of this podcast is the title of an article that I just submitted in the NeoLiberal Post, which was published just a few minutes ago, entitled Travel Advisory as Tool to Control. The US just slapped a travel advisory on Jamaica. This actually happened in January, and there has always been a travel ban against Jamaica since 2022. Okay, but they reposted the travel ban on February 7th, I believe, the US Department of State. The US has, this is the story that I posted in the NeoLiberal Post in RenaldoCMcKenzie.com. It's not available in the NeoLiberal journals at theneoliberal.com, but again, it's available in RenaldoCMcKenzie.com. We may probably have it available in the NeoLiberal.com. But the US has issued a level 3 travel advisory against Jamaica and Bahamas. I think Bahamas has a level 4.
We were surprised about that advisory because nothing had changed in Jamaica from 2023. And in 2023, we had over 3 million visitors, and we had 5 cases of homicides, and they were all linked to Jamaican Americans, unfortunately, because every loss of life is important to us. But I made the point to say there are many Jamaican Americans who do not go to the resort areas. They might go into some areas, there might be some other activities. At least 3 were very clear cases of persons being involved in illicit activities. So to just to not do any differentiation and make a blanket statement that Jamaica is not safe when over 3 million Americans visited, and there are only 5 cases of homicides. When I'm living right here in DC, and I'm not seeing many places right here in the United States that have 3 million persons, many cities, and with only 5 cases of murders. So I thought it was a very unfair and not a very equitable description of the situation in Jamaica. So while we do have a problem in Jamaica with gangs and gangs involved in illicit gun and drug activity between the United States and Latin America, it is not in the tourism areas. And I think more details should have been given so that persons didn't get the feeling that there was suddenly some spike in violence going on in Jamaica, because it just wasn't so. And level 3 also, we do not think is really the category that Jamaica is in, because many other countries in level 3 are countries with having not, they have civil unrest. They have, all kinds of mass murders going on. And that's not the situation in Jamaica. Well, you have been to Jamaica, that's not our situation. So what we need is to continue working closely with the US on the areas where they can be helpful in limiting the amount of illegal weapons that come to Jamaica that contribute to a crime situation.
But against Jamaica, citing inadequate healthcare and elevated levels of crime and violence. According, and you can see this story, you can see a supporting story published in CBS News entitled US Travel Advisory for Jamaica Warns Americans to Reconsider Visits Amid Spate of Murders. Now, according to statistics, and I'm going to push back against the US Travel Advisory, who cited a spate of murders, because I teach a Caribbean thought class, and I'm engaged in research, okay, that I'm looking at the global South countries, And I can tell you over the last over the last several months, murders have dropped significantly. Of course, we know this is usually transient. However, that is the situation now. According to statistics published by the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the Jamaica police arm, the nation Jamaica, which has a population of about 3 million, had recorded 65 homicides between January 1 and January 27 of 2024. While that represents a significant drop from the same period the previous year, when a significant drop from the same period the previous year when there were 81 homicides. And of course, while those figures seem low compared to what we have in Philadelphia, we're talking about per capita of the population in terms of measurement. Now, the data show a major drop. The data shows a major drop in the number of recorded rapes in January 2024 compared to the previous year. Now, crime has fallen. Why is there a travel advisory now warning Americans not to travel to Jamaica? Tourists have enjoyed the islands. Tourists from overseas, from outside of Jamaica. Tourists have enjoyed the islands with no major attacks over the last 5 years. And what crime remains is concentrated in places and spaces that tourists do not travel on the island, where there is peace and serenity. So it seems ominous and unfactual that the US State Department would issue this report, this advisory, using outdated facts to justify the travel advisory. Just as how outdated science was used to justify slavery, appealing to race, and then asserting that black Africans occupy the bottom part of that race to support them enslaving a whole set of people. Now they're using facts, created facts, voodoo facts, to substantiate and corroborate this travel advisory, because they don't want people to go to Jamaica, and they don't want Jamaica. Jamaica has in terms of Jamaica's foreign exchange has increased by about 30%. That's a problem for the competition. And so therefore, the fact that the US Department of State is using unfactual and outdated information, or not being true to the story, is a problem. It represents the US corrupting the truth. And I'm an American, okay? But at the same time, as I said to you, as Americans, we have a responsibility to hold our government accountable, and they must be held accountable. They must feel the heat, okay? Not only that, we as Americans, we have a responsibility to protect our brothers and sisters in other countries like those in the Caribbean. And guess what? Many Americans today have connections and relations with people in Jamaica. And when Jamaicans and people of the global south come to the US, they come looking for opportunity. And you know what the problem is? Many Jamaicans and Caribbean people, they don't tell the story to their children and grandchildren, okay, of their experience. Okay, the connections are severed. There's an activity I do with my students. I usually ask my students in Caribbean thought a brain teaser question that says, if I am a naturalized citizen in America and I have a child, is my child my first child who was born here in the US? Would that child be a first generation, second, third, or fourth generation American? And of course, some of the students ask, why are you? Some of the students challenge and push back, saying, why are you doing that dumb activity? And I said, because it shows connection, and the level, the currency, the strength of our connection, and connecting with people is important. Okay, connections are important, and the connections have a responsibility to maintain their identity. And if Jamaicans and other people from the global south are not maintaining their connections, then of course it will affect the black and brown people in the world and in America today. Okay? Just as though, we have a responsibility to maintain that connection, because now that's when you can tap into that unity. That's when you can, now you can have Americans here who are of Jamaican heritage, Americans here who are from Bahamas, Americans who are from the Caribbean. They can apply pressure to the U.S. government. They can apply pressure to their congressmen, to their senators, okay, as it relates to the unfair treatment of their grandmothers and grandfathers' country. Many Americans, black Americans here, appeal to Africa. But don't skip to Africa. Many black and brown people come from Jamaica, come from Bahamas, come from Barbados. Okay, so let us not jump too far. But some of them jump far and talk about, okay, but we have a responsibility to protect the people, the small countries, the people from the global south. The black and brown people who are living here. We cannot throw stones behind us. We need to ask Kamala Harris and President Biden, why have they issued a travel advisory against countries like Bahamas and Jamaica that has maintained, if anything, the travel advisory should be lowered from level 3 to level 2, or whatever, however the levels are. I don't know if level 1 represents the highest or the lowest, but whatever, the numbers should improve. The State Department issuance of a travel advisory on the island of Jamaica is a strategic move. But before, let me get to that. The fact that they have done this, the US, it represents the US corrupting the truth and applying the usual strategy to extend and retake control and to limit any gains or advantages that Jamaica has been realizing over the last few years. Let me say this again. The fact that the US State Department has done this, it represents the US corrupting the truth and applying the usual strategy to extend or retake control and to limit any gains or advantages that Jamaica has been realizing over the last few years. The Caribbean and post-independent countries, black celebrities and people should not allow the privilege to use travel advisories and ad deals, such as sneaker deals and NBA players, sneaker deals that NBA players have with Nike, to take away their freedoms and independence. That is why our wealth have to be organic. It has to be organic. And not hinged on the external or those who continue to use such tools to weaponize themselves against any competition from the historical. And that's an important point I'm making. Moreover, the State Department issuance of a travel advisory on the island of Jamaica is a strategic move by the US to limit the rising competition and to control the island, as Jamaica is not unstable and has been gaining while lowering crime and violence. That is the point I'm making. Let me say this again. The State Department's issuance of a travel advisory on the island of Jamaica is a strategic move by the US to limit the rising competition and to control the island, as Jamaica is not unstable and has been gaining while lowering crime and violence. Cities in the US, let me say this again. Cities in the US are dealing with mass shootings and rising crime and violence, while Jamaica's murder rate have been cut in half compared to last year. Yet the US used this calm moment to issue a travel advisory against Jamaica, citing rising homicides, when this is not widespread and limited, and it is limited to certain inner cities like that of Philadelphia and Chicago. Yet there is no travel advisory not to travel to Philadelphia and Chicago. However, the US does not like to be outshined by poorer peoples and countries. So they have sought to slap a punitive action against Jamaica to continue to enslave the peoples into doing its bidding or to limit the competition. Every country has the right to advise its citizens. Every country has the right to advise its citizens. But it must be reasonable and fair. Moreover, smaller countries should not allow themselves to be bullied by bigger countries using such tactics to control. That is why Caribbean unity and integration are pivotal, and black and brown peoples working and black and brown and working class peoples must remain supportive and together. Americans must not allow our government, we must not allow our government to continue these dictatorial and unfair tactics to the Caribbean and black countries. Now, a copy of this post was sent for consideration to be published as a letter in the Jamaica Gleaner. Hope it will be published there. But this is a conversation I will continue to have, and I'll pick up. I actually, Roland Martin in his Roland Martin Unfiltered had an interview where with the US, with the Jamaican ambassador to the US, and you can, if you go to my into the to RenaldoCMcKenzie.com, the article entitled "Travel Advisory as Tool to Control" links to his podcast discussions with the ambassador from Jamaica, talking about this particular issue is available there. This is the NeoLiberal podcast, brought to you by the NeoLiberal Corporation. We're always serving the world today to solve tomorrow's challenges by making popular what was the monopoly. Please visit us at theneoliberal.com and RenaldoCMcKenzie.com. Also, anchor.fm/the NeoLiberal and YouTube at Renaldo McKenzie. Please don't forget to donate to us at anchor.fm/the NeoLiberal/support, or by going to our website, theneoliberal.com, and go to support, and our support page will come up. Thank you for making it the NeoLiberal podcast. Walk good. We have a responsibility as immigrants from another country living in this land to fight for those who we have left behind and to pass on this fight to our children and grandchildren, first and second generation Americans. We must hold our government accountable for decisions and actions here that affect our peoples from the homelands. Not necessarily Africa, but the Caribbean and wherever we hail. We must never throw stones behind us.